Hi there, your head coach Steve Hopkins here, and today we're here to talk about a dimension or a skill. We want to focus on empathy. Right? Empathy is one of those words that we probably overuse quite a bit, and today in this short video, just want to spend a couple minutes breaking down what we're talking about. Empathy having to do with relationship, leading others, supervising others in that regard. All right, and so we'll cover what we think empathy is, right? A little bit about the business impact. So why does it matter? Maybe highlight some high performance, low performance things, and then give you two or three different practice activities you can do to really flex the muscle, exercise the skill of empathy. I'm going to just write up a few key words here to help jog your memory mind of what we're talking about as we go through the concept of empathy. All right. So when we talk about what empathy is, I'm going to write down one key word that I think is really critical, and that's to cue us in on what we're talking about. I would just say the word others. Okay. So the word others, when we think about what, okay, what is empathy? It's really just this concept of thinking about other people, right? Understanding what other people are going through, what they're thinking of, all the way through to the emotions, the experiences, all right? So it's everything about them, less about us, all right? Empathy is this process and this ability to really view and think about and understand and really feel what other people are going through. All right? Empathy for others, empathy of your coworker, empathy of the employees that work for you, empathy of somebody that's about ready to get let go, empathy of a brand new employee that just went through orientation. Not just thinking about them, but understanding them as if they were you nearly. Okay, so that's what we're talking about with empathy. When we talk about the impact, so we'll just use the word I for impact. There's lots of business impact, but I'm going to use the word trust. Okay, trust. These are just key words to help us jog our memory or just kind of help contextualize things. So when we build empathy, we build relationships, functional relationships with other people that we're working with, whether they be people that report to us and trust us in leading them, or it can even be peer to peer. Trust, of course, gives you the power to do lots of things, right? Connect with them, collaborate with them, forge friendships, overcome obstacles, all of those sorts of things. So when we're empathetic with people, right, they perceive something different with us, right? There's another thing going on in that relationship, and it's the way they kind of look at us, the way they think of us, the way they perceive our effort to really, really know what's going on. All right. And because of that, it helps you build confidence with them. They have confidence in you. So when the going gets tough and maybe the ask gets a little higher, that empathetic relationship is going to pay off for you, so to speak, right? And you've experienced this in lots and lots of relationships, even work related or even empathetic relationships that you've built, all right, in your personal lives. You know, when it gets time for tough conversations or challenging types of things, people believe in something different about you. It helps them go the extra mile, ponder things that maybe they wouldn't be before. Depth of loyalty is really exercised in those situations. So we've even highlighted some of the high performance things, right? We have people that are great listeners, people that can ask questions, inquire, kind of lean in. You'll see these sorts of things. Somebody that maybe puts others first and themselves second, those sorts of things. And low performers would be people then that exhibit some of the opposite of those things. You'll use words like that person seems selfish, and however you might describe selfish, we're talking about somebody that's not exercising empathy very good, right? They're putting themselves first. Their own interest seems to come out as opposed to the interest of other people. All right, one of my favorite kind of tells about a low performer in empathy is somebody that is talking a lot or certainly telling people things instead of inquiring and kind of gathering. That's one of my signals that we're dealing with somebody that needs to work on on empathy. Okay, so we kind of have that. I think there's parts of empathy that are intuitive to us, but sometimes putting words actually to the thing helps quite a bit. So let's talk about a couple um, practice activities, all right? And so we'll just use the word P for practice here, all right? And the first thing I'll say is we'll use the word ask, okay? So we know that's a key word for empathy, right? Because we're inquiring, we want to gather information as opposed to just tell people, give direction only. That's us to them, and that's like my intention, my desire, my agenda rules and is dominant. Here, when we think about asking, we're gathering, we're listening, we're leaning in, right? We're being empathetic, and so we can ask. In lots of ways. One cool way would just be to find somebody and ask them, quote unquote, their life story, or ask a component of their life story, right? Just get in the habit of saying, I don't really have an agenda, I want to learn, all right? When we do diversity training, for instance, we use a practice activity that says, find somebody that you sense in whatever way you're sensing is the most different than you. And we really get experience, we challenge that with saying, in a challenging way, different than you in a difficult way, right? A real challenging way, and then ask for their life story, all right, as we learn about them. So asking somebody about their life story is a great activity just to practice empathy, learn, ask a life story question, ask for a next level of depth, ask one follow-up question, right? And just purposely do that for the exercise of growing in empathy. Again, we do these things as we're interested. Like that's just a very natural thing. It's like, wow, tell me more about what it's like to be a first round draft choice in the NFL. I would do that very naturally because I'd just be so curious, right? But to do it as an exercise would be to create the scenario when it's not so intuitive and flex the muscle of I want to practice empathy. I want to really try to get inside your shoes about your experience. And I don't necessarily have a innate passion for it. I really want to practice empathy and leaning into a space that's not so naturally curious to me. Okay, so that's a great one. Um, the other thing is maybe more of a micro ask exercise, and that is during a conversation, all right, remind yourself the word ask, all right, and ask a question to validate something that you perceive to be true at the moment, okay? Could be a feeling, all right, or it could just be a fact or a clarifying thing about the experience that they've just shared with you, okay? And this could just be in work environment. This works all the time. It's like, hey, yesterday, da 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 da, and we had this thing, and Johnny didn't do it, and so I had to follow up, and then then ask a question to validate something that you are believing to be true about that situation. Okay. Again, what we're trying to do is make sure we have it right of what we think it's like to be in their shoes. All right. So when you went through that yesterday, it sounds like you could have been really frustrated. Is that true? And they would acknowledge and validate you, or they say, no, 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 don't get me wrong. I wasn't frustrated. I just wish I hadn't had to do it again. All right. And what we're doing is we're clarifying. We kind of think we have it, but we're kind of honing in, zeroing in. Do we have it really right? Am I really getting you right now? Okay. So asking in a micro sense is just a quick exercise, validating something you perceive in a question. Okay. Here's the next word here. We're going to use the word teach. I love this one. Teach. All right. Even in a position of authority, even in a position of supervision, this is a great thing to use both for peer-to-peer, or if you obviously if you're mentoring somebody or working with somebody, teaching someone, right, something that's brand new, that to be successful in that, using empathy can be very powerful, okay, because we want that person to be successful, okay? So along the way, we're asking questions, all right? So teaching in an asking, inquiring way about how they're doing, how they have it, are things moving along well. This is a great um, full exercise. You could teach somebody something in 5 minutes, or it could take longer than that. But invest in teaching people so that you can go through the experience of what it's like to remind yourself of what it's like to learn something. Plus, in the process, you're asking questions: is that experience going successfully? Right? Have you ever had a teacher, all right, that's tasked with teaching you something that never really cares how that experience is going? I know I have. The greatest teachers are focused on the content, but they're also focused on the experience, and they convey that by asking questions. How's this teaching experience going? How is your voyage in this learning going? Am I getting it for you? Right? Are you following along? Right? I remember math being one of those things that I learned was really a process often, right? And the great teachers would say things like, are you following along in the steps of this process? Because other teachers would just go fill the whole board, right? And they say, hey, did you get this answer? They're like, no, and by the way, you lost me way up here, you know? And so by teaching people um, a new skill, it helps us jump into their shoes again, right? It's a process that helps us jump into somebody else's shoes. That same regard, the next item I would say, the last one, just to wrap up, is the word try. Right now, these all three of these things kind of go together, and trying is again another great thing you do peer to peer or people that report to you. Try doing an activity that's totally foreign to you. All right, something that's brand new, and you can have somebody else be guiding or teaching you, or you can try something on your own. Okay. But going through the experience of being a learner again gives you empathy for when you go back up and do teaching again. All right. Because it doesn't feel great to get lost. It doesn't feel great to have the process not go well. And so when we try things, it helps us interlink with our ability to teach things, right? Because we can have an empathetic spirit about what that experience is like, right? But when we try things, it's about curiosity, it's about discovery, it's about maybe failing at some steps and maybe having to self-resource and how fast is that. And so these two things work really well together. You can pick an activity, any kind of activity, and try something that's foreign to you just to go through the experience. And you could use another person as a resource to really make it come alive, or it can be something that's a solo experience, and so it gives you that feeling again. So anyway, keywords: others, trust, ask, teach, and try will help you and I stay dialed in to the dimension of empathy. Hope this helps. Give these things a try, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side of the river.